And I'm going to share my screen. So Kitchen Tech, Smart Kitchens. We'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our program, and we hope that you get a little bit of information that maybe you didn't know ahead of time. My name's Susan McBride, and I am co-hosting with Mike Edding. So I wanted to start by talking about what we mean by smart kitchen. Typically, the idea of a smart kitchen is you have some kind of device, whether it be a smart speaker like I have pictured here, whether it's your cell phone, your computer, your iPad. It's some kind of device that you have connected to an ancillary kitchen item that allows you to control the item or view the progress of what you're doing with the item. So you can connect to, for instance, your microwave or your digital thermometer, your meat thermometer, your refrigerator, your range, even a blender or a pressure cooker. And so Mike and I are going to go through the different ways that you can connect with the different types of equipment in your kitchen to use some functionality with the devices that maybe you didn't know was an option. Most of this will start with a smart speaker, and smart speakers can serve a lot of purposes, and they can be a lot of provide a lot of convenience when you're cooking. So one way that smart speakers can help you out in the kitchen is by serving as a kitchen timer. So the benefit of using a smart speaker as a timer is first of all, it's voice activated. And second of all, you can have multiple timers going at the same time. So for example, you can say, Alexa, set a 2-hour timer for turkey. And Alexa, set a 1-hour timer for potatoes. And Alexa, set a 30-minute timer for green beans. And once the timers go off, you will get alerted to the fact that your timer for your turkey timer is going off or your potato timer is going off. And it's a much more convenient and easy way to keep track of multiple things that you're cooking at the same time. Another very useful way to make use of the smart speakers in the kitchen is as a hands-free reference. So if you're in the middle of cooking, your hands are dirty and you can't stop to look something up, you can say, hey, Google, how much is 1/2 of 2/3 of a cup? Or, hey, Google, what is a substitution for buttermilk? Or, hey, Google, how long do I bake my 20-pound turkey? And Google will respond verbally with the answer to your question, and you can go about your business in the kitchen. Another thing that's helpful is by adding to your shopping list. So you can say, hey, Alexa, add garlic to my shopping list. And it will automatically be put on your shopping lists that you have on your Alexa app. And then you'll have it with you when you go to the grocery store on your phone. You can also use your smart speaker to look up recipes. So for example, you can say, Alexa, find a recipe for apple pie. And Alexa will find a recipe for you. And if you like that recipe, then you can either have her read it to you, or you can have it sent to your phone, or you could say next recipe. And Alexa will go through all of the recipes that she has pulled up on the device until you find one that you're interested in. And then finally, you can use your smart speakers to connect to other smart devices so that they are activated using your voice. And we will be walking you through some of that in the rest of the presentation. But I did want to say there are 3 main smart speakers when I talk about them. The first is the Alexa counterpart, which is the Echo Dot. And these run, you can you can get them anywhere from, $30 for the basic one that I have pictured here to a couple $100, depending on what variety you get. There's also the Google Home, and this is the smallest version, the Google Home Mini. There's also a Google Home Nest, and they also then go up from there. I think they start around $50 and go up beyond $200, $250, something like that. And then finally, there's Apple's version, which is the Apple HomePod. And these are a bit more expensive. The difference between all three of them is somewhat subtle. If you are purely looking for good speakers to listen to music, the Apple HomePod is probably your best option. It's probably got the best sound quality. And in general, with these smart speakers, the bigger the speaker, the better the sound quality you're going to get. But in terms of using them in the kitchen, I would recommend either one of the Echo products or one of the Google products. The Google products have Google behind them, and so the search engine is very robust, and you're going to have access to a lot more information from the internet. Just when you ask Google a question, it's going to have a lot more to back it up with. The Echo Dot is great because Alexa is connected with a lot more appliances and small appliances and gadgets around the kitchen. And so in terms of purely trying to find a smart speaker that will work with more kitchen implements, the Echo Dot or the Echo speaker, one of the versions of the Echo speaker that is an Alexa based speaker is going to be the most useful, I believe. So that would be my recommendation if you're thinking of buying a smart speaker or if you don't have one already. So we're going to start with small gadgets and appliances, and then we'll work our way up to the larger appliances. So when we're talking about a smart kitchen, we're going to start with, like I said, the smart speaker or the phone, and they're going to kind of be the central hub. They're going to be what controls the appliances or the gadgets that we're talking about. So first, let's talk about pressure cookers. Pressure cookers are in the utility of connecting your pressure cooker to the internet and then to either your Alexa or your phone is that you are able to track the progress of your cooking so that you don't have to be right there with it. So Instant Pot is I think the only pressure cooker right now that is Wi-Fi enabled, and it works with Alexa and it works with Google Assistant, and it also works with the Instant Pot mobile app. And what you do with it is you can you go to the app or you tell Alexa or Google what you want to do. So you could say start set pressure cooker to high. Or pressure cook on high for 30 minutes, and it's going to automatically set the Instant Pot to cook according to what you've told it to do, whether it's on your phone with the app or through your voice with Alexa or Google. You can also use pre-programmed recipes to set up a cooking program, and it can send the ingredients for the recipes directly to your app. You can then get on your phone and track the progress of your cooking. If you go out for a walk, you can see where it is. You can tell it that you want to keep it warm as opposed to having it turn off if you're not back in time to stop it. You can receive alerts when the cooking progress is done. And like I said, it uses Alexa, it uses Google Assistant, and then it uses the mobile app. If you're using Alexa, that would be your voice activated. And then if you're using the mobile app, you're going to be using your phone or your iPad to control the cooking. There is also a crock pot that is a smart crock pot. However, I have not been able to find a version of it that's new that you can buy right now. They have sold out everywhere. You can get one used, I saw on Amazon for about $200. It's typically lists for about 120. So you may want to wait if you and not run out and look for the slow cooker right away. But the Wi-Fi connected slow cooker will connect with either Alexa or your voice. There's also a version that connects with the Wemo app, but I would recommend looking for the Alexa enabled crock pot because it's going to be a lot more useful. You can use it to adjust your cook times, you can fill it up and go to work and then start it remotely, and then stop it remotely and turn it to warm and just keep your food warm by being away from home. So it's a useful product in that you don't have to be home to control it. That's about all it does. So whether it's worth it or not, I'm not sure. If you're using your crock pot and you find that you don't want to turn it on until noon and you're at work at that point, then it would be useful. You can also interact with a smart scale. And if you enjoy weighing your food, in recipes, the smart scale is kind of a cool option. They're useful, kitchen scales are useful for precise measuring, and that will result in better recipes and also more accurate nutritional information. What smart scales do is they add a little extra to this process, and they do it in a couple of different ways, but they're not all the same. So I'm going to walk through the differences and what they do and what they don't do. Some are better for cooking and some are better for tracking and measuring, keeping track of nutritional information. So for example, the Escali scale will send wireless measurements from their scale to your app. And so you would put a bowl on the scale and then you would put your ingredients into the bowl. So for example, you could take peanut M&Ms and you would put them on the scale, and then you would enter in on your phone what it is that you're weighing, and it would tell you the exact nutrition information. It would tell you how much you've weighed. And then you also have the option of adding whatever those ingredients are to a food diary. It can save it if you're trying to create a recipe. It can save whatever the measurements are that you put on the scale, and it sends it all to an app on your phone or on your tablet. It's both Apple and Android. So it's useful in terms of if you are wanting to keep track of detailed nutritional analysis, or if you want to create a food journal, or if you want to just keep track of what you're measuring. The Escali scale retails for about $100, but you can find it at retailers for as low as $65. The drop scale is a different type of scale that I have pictured here on the slide. And the drop scale is kind of interesting. It guides you through pre-programmed recipes. So you would connect it with your app and you would look up a recipe that is already programmed into the app. I think that there are thousands of recipes in it. And it will tell you what you need. And then you would start measuring by weight each ingredient. And if you don't have the exact amount that is required in the recipe, it will recalibrate the recipe based upon the amount of that one ingredient that you do have. So if you have less chicken than the recipe calls for, then it will make the necessary adjustments for all of the rest of the ingredients. And you just simply add the ingredients in a bowl, and the app will tell you when to stop adding the ingredients. So you never have to measure anything with a measuring cup or a measuring spoon. And then it walks you through the cooking instructions as well. So it's kind of a nifty implement in the kitchen. And then finally, the reflex scale, which I don't have pictured here, is another smart scale. It converts ingredients to weights, and then it will also provide detailed nutritional information. Oh, and I didn't mention, but with the drop scale, you can also ask for substitutions. If you don't have something, it will offer a substitution for the recipes that it's providing.
So I thought we would talk about our next category, which is sous vide equipment. So cooking sous vide at home has really taken off over the last several years. At its core, it simply refers to cooking food in a sealed bag in a water bath at controlled temperatures. So that allows the food to be cooked low and slow without a loss of flavor or nutrients. It also allows for steaks and other proteins to be cooked without that typical temperature gradient where you have meat in the middle that's not quite as cooked as that on the surface. Sous vide equipment began to hit the mainstream in 2013 when home units started reaching the market. These were not smart per se, but immersion circulators, which are the devices that go into some sort of a cooking vessel and move the water around. That's the circulator part. And immersion, obviously, it's sitting in the water and it heats it up, and it makes for a very even cooking experience. So again, the early models for the home were not smart. They didn't connect to anything. And I bought one of these in 2013 that didn't have any connectivity, and it worked great. So it's not necessary for your sous vide immersion circulator to be smart. Connected apps started happening the next year. And when you look at today's market for immersion circulators, there are really two models which sort of rise to the top of the pack. There's one by a company called Innova, and there's one called the Joule, Joule. And each of these sells for about $200. And I think either one would be a good choice for a smart immersion circulator, but they do differ a little bit. Innova has been at it for longer. They were, again, one of the early companies to jump into the market. Their product is solidly constructed with a lot of steel, and it features a touch-sensitive display on the unit itself, which shows the power status as well as the temperature and the timer that you might have going. Joule is in sort of sharp contrast to the Innova. It's much less industrial looking and more minimalist and design focused. There's only an on-off button on the unit, so you won't be able to tell the temperature except through the app on your phone or tablet. It does have a magnet, which is on the bottom of the immersion circulator, it kind of looks like a long stick. And at the bottom of that stick, you just pop it on your pot, and if it's a magnetic a ferrous pot, it'll stick to it. The Joule also has excuse me, a more powerful heater than the Innova, so it brings things to temperature more quickly, which will lead to perhaps a reduced cook time. So I'd say another thing that is a little bit different is the Joule. Reports have that the app is a little more elegant and better designed than the Innova app, but each of them has recipes included, which will guide you in terms of it setting the temperature and that sort of thing. So is this worth it? Is this something that you should explore? Well, if you like to experiment a little bit with your cooking and aren't intimidated by sort of non-traditional cooking techniques, I'd say either one of these would work well. The next thing I'd like to talk about is countertop ovens, smart countertop ovens. So they're pretty diverse in their approach to heating. There are many different technologies that they use, and they're available in combination. So you get things like a convection oven that also broils, or a steam oven that also has a convection mode. So of all these technologies, I think steam is the most cutting edge. Until recently, ovens which used steam were reserved for restaurant use, and they cost about $20,000. So these things fill the chamber with humid air up to 100%, but also less than that. Because water is such a good conductor of heat, this allows the food to cook more quickly and without drying out. Convection ovens, I'm sure many of you are familiar with them. They've been around for quite a while, but they've gotten an upsurge with the popularity of air fryers, which essentially are convection ovens. Ovens with this functionality use fans to evenly distribute the heat around the item to be cooked. So this can also speed the cooking process as compared to traditional oven elements. So in terms of specific products, there's one that you might consider called the June oven, and that runs about $600. This oven augments standard heating units with convection. It has a beautiful smartphone-like interface on the front of the unit, which you use to control it. But it also has an app, which has many, many recipes, and it integrates very tightly with the device. One cool feature that the June oven has is there's a camera inside the cooking chamber, which lets you see the progress of your food. It can actually recognize the food that you put in the oven and suggest a cooking program that might work for that particular item, whether it's asparagus or a baked potato or anything like that. You can also follow the progress of your food as it cooks in the oven visually. You get a live view on your phone of what's going on in the oven, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, with the third generation of this product, which was just announced within the last few weeks, some of the features are locked behind a subscription paywall. So if you want to get the full availability of all the features, like the guided recipes, you have to pay $10 a month in addition to that $600 that you've already paid. So that this sort of integration with the app all used to be free, so they're totally changing the model. Another product you might consider instead of the June oven is the Tovala oven. And this comes in at $300, half the price of the June. And it features steam technology to go along with that broiling and convection. Most of the Tovala's smartness is related to cooking their meal kits, which you subscribe to and order from the company. And those cost like $12 a piece, but they are really simple to prepare. If you compare them to things like Blue Apron, there's much less prep work that's required. Usually you're just pouring a sauce on something at the end. So they apparently taste pretty good, but they are $12 each. And it does a good job with those products. But if you like to experiment a little bit, you could get the Tovala and try to use its technology to convert your own recipes. So that might be a fun thing to do if you're an experienced cook, to try to get it to work with your own recipes. But the device that I think is most interesting of all is the Anova Precision Oven, which combines steam and convection. So this oven retails for $600 and allows you to essentially cook sous vide, but without a bag. There's an app that guides the device through tons of recipes. And most of the comments I've read from experienced cooks who use it are very positive. They seem to really like this. They think it's kind of a breakthrough kind of product. So if you're kind of in that category, you might want to consider this. The reason it's such a breakthrough is because of the very precise control that it gives you over temperature and humidity inside the oven, and you can hold temperatures just like sous vide within a degree or two. So Anova is that company that we talked about with the sous vide immersion circulator. So they have a history with precise temperature control. So I think that would be something to consider. So are they worth it? Well, there are two different kinds of products that we've talked about. The June Oven and Tovala sort of rely on some sort of a subscription plan to get the most out of them, whether it's a subscription to the app or a subscription for meals to be delivered. So you need to be comfortable with paying that kind of an ongoing fee if you're going to go with one of those. But what they offer is a lot of convenience for those fees. The other product, it has an integrated app with a lot of recipes, as I mentioned, but it really shines when you have a cook that likes to get into precise temperatures and knows that they want their chicken cooked to an internal temperature of 160 or 162 or whatever. If you know that sort of thing or can develop those skills, the Anova Precision Oven will really pay off, I think. The next thing I'd like to discuss is a blender. So most blenders have had the same basic functionality for decades. In many cases, they're kind of limited to speed controls as well as maybe a pulse button to turn it quickly on and off. More advanced units have presets which can cook things or prepare things like smoothies, or maybe there's a crushed ice setting, or maybe there's a soup setting on your blender. And the America's Test Kitchen recently looked at some of the blenders that are in the higher end category and didn't really find that those presets were that useful. So take that for what it's worth. But if you're looking for something even smarter than those presets, it's out there. There's a line of products by Vitamix, which is called the Ascent series, and they range in price from $450 to $600. And they integrate with an app called the Perfect Blend app. And the app, when you connect it to your blender, I think it connects via Bluetooth to your phone. It unlocks a lot of those preset programs that aren't even on the blender. So it adds things like baby food, spice grinding, nut butter, dry chopping, etc. So that could be kind of cool. It would, control your actual blender and turn it on and off and that sort of thing. All of this works even better if you add their smart scale to it. Now, Susan was already talking about some of the things that smart scales can do, and it's exactly the same here. You can follow recipes, and it'll tell you to add ingredients until it reaches the ingredient level that's required. And it'll beep at you to tell you to stop adding that and to add the next ingredient. So you'll add the next ingredient and it'll tell you when that one's done. And it also, I believe, can scale recipes if you don't want as large of a serving as they think you should have. So taking in combination, that's pretty cool. But is it worth it? I think you'd have to really be into nutrition, and you're very much into keeping track of either calories or nutritional things like vitamins. If you're very focused on that, I think something like the Ascent series with a Perfect Blend scale would be a great combination. But for most people, I don't see that it's worth the extra amount to pay for these extra smart features. You might think they're great in concept, but when it comes to reality, I'm not so sure that you would use them on a regular basis. That said, I bought the very lowest end Ascent model from Vitamix. I haven't used any of its smart features, but it's just a great basic powerful blender. So if you find one on sale and it happens to have those smart features, you don't have to use them, I guess is my point. The next thing I'd like to talk about is something that Susan mentioned, which is a smart thermometer. So people have been cooking and meat thermometers for a long time. When using one of these devices, you don't have to rely on things like touch or color of the protein to determine whether it's done cooking. And that obviously introduces some error when you, the possibility for human error when you're cooking and relying on those techniques. But using an actual thermometer inside the item you're cooking can do wonders for food safety at the very least. Now, remote thermometers have been around for quite a while. These transmit the temperature data, both of the ambient temperature in the cooking area as well as the inside the food item itself. Older models send this data to a base unit, which you sort of keep in the house if you're grilling or smoking, or you could keep it in the living room if you're roasting something in the oven. But the problem with this approach is that you have to have wires which run from these probes to the transmitter unit, and it kind of gets in the way of cooking. I recently learned of a line of products which is a little bit different. It's called the Meter, MEATER series of meat thermometers. And the specific model, which seems to make the most sense for most consumers, I think, is the Meter Plus, which costs $100. And it offers better wireless connectivity than the base Meter model, which I think is like $60. This Meter probe has a little battery inside that's rechargeable, and it connects to your phone via Bluetooth. And the app displays the cooking situation, both the ambient temperature and the temperature inside the food. And you can tell it what kind of protein you're cooking, and it will tell you how much time is left before it reaches that desired temperature based on the ambient temperature in your oven. And it also gives you an alert when it's time to pull the food. So that can take a lot of the guesswork out of it. This particular product seems like a really cool thing for the home cook, especially if you do some of your preparations outside. A cheaper alternative, which I don't have listed on the screen, is called the Weber iGrill Mini. And this offers a lot of the same functionality. The package and the actual probe are not quite as elegant, but it's also quite a bit less. It's only $50. So you might take a look at the Weber iGrill Mini as an alternative to the Meter. So coffee is next. Coffee is part of the daily routine for many of us. And it's not surprising to find that there are companies which have tried to improve on traditional coffee makers by including some sort of advanced functionality. So one approach, as with so many of these smart devices, is to add voice control. The Hamilton Beach Works with Alexa smart coffee maker is one example. It costs $90, and it allows you to speak commands like, Alexa, turn on my coffee maker, and Alexa, set brew strength to bold. It gets pretty good reviews on Amazon, and buyers seem to like that convenience of voice control. There's another model, which is called the Atami Smart Coffee Maker, which is also coming in at about $90. This, just like the other one, the Hamilton Beach, can accept smart speaker commands, just the same. But the reviews on this one are not quite as good as those on the Hamilton Beach. There is one added function here, is that it also has an app, so you could control it via your phone instead of speaking to a smart speaker. Now, coffee enthusiasts, I think, would be more likely to want to funnel their money towards a coffee machine which brews better rather than a more convenient coffee maker. So the Breville Precision Brewer, which is $300, allows you to dial in the brewing temperature and rate of flow of hot water. And aficionados will really like this degree of control over their brew. Alternatively, if you want something even more simple, the Technivorm Mocha Master is widely regarded to be the ultimate in drip coffee makers, and it costs even a little bit more at $320. It's very simple in function. There's no smarts whatsoever here, but it provides great results. And finally, I'll talk just a little bit about coffee grinders. People that are enthusiastic about coffee usually like to grind it fresh. And when they do that, they want to have a burr grinder versus a blade grinder. So the burr grinder lets you just put your beans in the hopper, set a coarseness level for the grind, and press a button, and it grinds it all to that exact desired level of coarseness. There's one called the Breville Smart Grinder Pro, which costs about $200. And believe it or not, coffee enthusiasts would consider this to be a relatively low-end price point for a good coffee maker. This allows you to set all the grindness or the grind coarseness that I was mentioning before, but it also lets you tell it how many cups of coffee or how many servings you want to have. So it will actually, you just press the button once you've dialed in your settings for coarseness and how many cups of coffee you want, and it'll just grind it into either the included hopper or container, storage container, or you could even remove the storage container and put your coffee filter directly there. And there's no guesswork. There's no measuring out of tablespoons of coffee. It'll do it for you. So that works pretty well. If you want even more control, there's something called the Baratza Sete 270 WI. And that comes in at $550. It does all the same things as the Breville, but it grinds by weight. So you get pretty much exactly what you want. The Breville kind of guesses how much coffee it's going to dispense based on the amount of time it's grinding, which is not quite as exact. So if you really love coffee, Baratza is a name that you may know already because they make some of the best grinders. The very simple grinder is the Baratza Encore, and that's only $140 only. And America's Test Kitchen picked the Baratza Encore as their top coffee grinder recently. So is all of this worth it? If you're a typical drip coffee drinker, I'd say something like the Hamilton Beach would be a great and convenient way to go. If you're very much into coffee, you might want to go for like the duo of the Breville products with the Precision Brewer and the Smart Grinder Pro. So next up are smart microwaves. So when I started to research this category, it seemed like many other products, the smartness of these microwaves has to do with voice control. And typically they work with Alexa. So the two that seemed to come up a lot were a Toshiba model, which is a smart countertop microwave with a product number. And that costs about $135. They have others, I believe, in the smart category, but that is a pretty popular one. And the Amazon Basics microwave costs $90. It includes an Echo Dot smart speaker. It kind of bundles the microwave and the smart speaker, so you don't have to buy another one. Each of these respond to basically the same set of commands, like Alexa, microwave for 2 minutes. Alexa, defrost 8 ounces of ground beef. Alexa, reheat 1 cup of coffee. Alexa, cook 1 hot dog. Excuse me, microwave 1 hot dog or potato. And if you'd like it to shut off, you can just say, Alexa, stop the microwave, and it'll stop cooking. All of these also, all these models that have Alexa control also have the traditional touchscreen controls like your ordinary microwave. So you're not giving that up. The Toshiba smart microwave also has an app, so you can control it with your phone for whatever that's worth. So, do I recommend getting a smart microwave? Well, I think it depends. I'd say if you're not spending a lot more than a basic microwave, it's probably worth it. And these are relatively inexpensive. The Amazon Basics model looks like it would be ideal for a college student who can have one of these in their dorm or apartment. I think it's pretty no frills, but they don't need frills. The Toshiba seems like it might be a little better general purpose microwave. The materials look a little better, more upscale, and that app control might be a benefit. So that's microwaves. The next category, and the final one that I'll be talking about, is the idea of an induction burner system. So for those of you who aren't familiar with induction cooking, it's a method of delivering heat directly to magnetic pots and pans. It's more energy efficient than traditional cooking methods like gas or electric because it only heats the pan itself and doesn't lose energy to the air that's kind of surrounding the pan. It heats more quickly than other methods as well. You might be able to boil water in half the time as like a gas burner. And this is really not new technology. It was introduced at the Chicago World's Fair in 1933. But the first ranges that featured induction cooking they came onto the market in the 1970s and didn't really take off in the United States. But in other parts of the world, induction cooking is a fairly popular form of heating in the kitchen in new construction. So you'll see a lot of them in Europe, but they're still kind of growing in the United States. But you see electric hot plates that use induction cooking. They cost between $60 and $100 or so, and you can have this fairly advanced form of heating in your home. There are some cooking systems that have come to market relatively recently which use induction as the way to heat. And the benefit, I think, is that induction can come to a particular temperature and hold that temperature. And that has some distinct advantages. The first system that I'd like to talk about is the Heston Q system, CUE. And this system runs for about $400 to $700, depending on the amount of cookware that it includes. The basic model for $400 gives you a pretty nice induction burner and I think a frying pan. But if you go for the $700 model, you'll get some other cookware in addition to that frying pan. So all of this stuff works together with a smartphone app, which has a lot of these guided recipes that are so popular with smart kitchen things. The recipes control the burner and provide step-by-step cooking instructions. There are even videos that are included for a lot of these steps, which give sort of novice or people that are stuck on a step a way to see how that step may be done properly, which is really pretty cool. All in all, I think it's a pretty sophisticated and easy to use system. The other sort of induction cooking system I'd like to talk about is on the very high end of things. It's the Breville Polyscience Control Freak. And if you look at it, it looks like a really large induction burner. But inside all that space is a lot of great technology. It costs $1,500, and it's really geared towards professional chefs and advanced amateurs. Is one of the companies that is in the name, the Breville Polyscience Control Freak. Polyscience has been in the commercial cooking arena for a while, and they were one of the first to popularize the use of sous vide in restaurants. And they took this experience that they have based on this temperature control and put it into an induction burner, which allows it to sense both, again, the temperature of the cooking device, which is in this case the pan. There's a little probe that pops up from the top of the induction burner, and when you set your pan on top of it, it actually measures the temperature of the pan at that point. Induction is kind of cool in that it doesn't actually become hot unless you put something magnetic on it. So once you take and this goes for the Heston Q as well, once you take your pan off, it might have a little heat that's left over from the pan sitting on it, but you could turn on an induction burner and lay your hand on it and nothing would happen because your hand isn't magnetic. Anyway, I digress a little bit. It's taking a temperature reading of the pan, and it's also got a probe that connects to the inside from the inside of of your food to the device. So it can monitor both the pan level of heat and the food level of heat. And using that, it allows you to dial in very precise temperature that you want it. You can say, I want my steak cooked to 135 degrees, and it will tell you when it's done. So it also has different, levels of heat. So you could bring things up to temperature at a slow, moderate, or turbo speed. And that kind of thing can be helpful for an advanced chef. So it's really an advanced system, but it's not a smart system because it doesn't have an integrated app. It doesn't have recipes for you. It assumes that you are going to know what temperature you want to cook things at. So, that particular product, I think, would only be worth it for someone who is a really technically proficient chef and doesn't mind dropping that huge amount of money on a burner. I think once they're able, if they do, to bring that to a lower price point, they'll be in better shape. The Control Freak, so for the advanced cook, the Heston Q, though, I think is easy enough to use that it would be good for a lot of home cooks. It's a little pricey, granted, but you're getting that induction heating, which is pretty cool. And you could take it with you from your main home if you are visiting someone at another home or your lake house or what have you. It could be portable in a sense. So that's kind of a neat feature too that both of them share. So I think if it were me, I'd be kind of excited about the Heston Q as being a worthwhile smart product. So Susan is going to talk about some larger appliances now.
So large appliances. For the most part, when you're talking about a smart large appliance, you're talking about whatever your appliance is that you're purchasing that has added a few convenient features that connect it, using Wi-Fi to either an app or to one of your smart speakers. Since these appliances are one of the largest investments you're going to have in your kitchen. My advice is to start by finding the appliance that you want. So find the refrigerator or the range or the dishwasher that you want for your space, that is in terms of appearance or in terms of size or in terms of the functions that they have, and the, you know, how high end you want to go and how hot you want the burners to get, and how many different ovens you want in your range. And then decide if you want to go with the smart version of that based off of what that smart functionality is. And it ranges with all of the different manufacturers and the different models, and there's a wide range of what a smart appliance is. So I'm going to start by talking about, in general, what you might see when you're looking at smart refrigerators. Typically, they will connect through some sort of app to your phone. Usually, most of them, I think, if not all of them, will send you a notification if the refrigerator or the freezer door is left open. Most of them will allow you to control the temperature remotely. So if you want to check, maybe make the refrigerator a little cooler or a little, the freezer a little colder. Most of them will allow you to control your water and your ice settings. If you happen to have a refrigerator that heats water for you, you can do that remotely from your bedroom so that when you come down, you can make your tea or your coffee right away. If you're having a party and you want to check your ice levels, whether your ice bucket is full, or while you're at the grocery and you can pick up more ice, then, you know, some of them have the ability to tell you whether you're low on ice or whether you have sufficient ice. There are some refrigerators that will allow you to open them up and create a shopping list while you're looking in the refrigerator. So just the way that you would do it with Alexa, only you're using the refrigerator's built-in smart speaker or hub. And then there are a couple that actually have cameras, 3 or 4 cameras inside the refrigerator. So if you're at the grocery store and you're like, gosh, I can't remember, are we almost out of milk, or do we need orange juice, or you're able to see pretty much anywhere in your refrigerator just by using your phone. So those in general are the basic functions of a smart refrigerator. So the one I have pictured here on the slide, and the one that you see a lot of when you're looking at smart refrigerators, is the Samsung, because what they've done is they've created this smart hub, this family hub. And what that allows you to do is it serves as kind of an alternative to Alexa. And you can use that to make your shopping lists. And then you can tell it to send the list to Instacart, and you can actually buy your groceries right there without even going to the store. You can browse for recipes and then add the ingredients from the recipes to your shopping list. You can order takeout from Grubhub using the Smart Hub. It also serves as a whiteboard for leaving notes to each other. You can have a shared calendar on it right there on the outside of your refrigerator. You can watch videos. You can post digital photos. You can stream music. You can listen to the radio. You can even mirror whatever is playing on your Samsung TV if it's got the same smart technology. So there are, you can take it to that degree if you want to. But like I said, I think that your best bet is to start off by deciding what refrigerator you like the best, because the smart features are kind of like the icing on top. And I guess I wouldn't recommend buying the refrigerator based solely on the smart features because it is such a big investment. That said, if something like the Samsung does interest you, I mean, it does have some very useful functionality. Some of the other refrigerators that don't have this family hub, a smart hub, still have some useful features, but they're certainly not the reason to buy the refrigerator, if that makes sense. And so then moving into ranges, again, with each different manufacturer, there are different functionalities in terms of what they can do with their smartness, their smarties. Most of the smart ranges are going to allow you to access their controls remotely, so using your phone. So you could preheat your oven, you can adjust the temperature, you can turn it off, you can set a timer, and you can do all that using your phone, or if it's connected to Alexa, you can do it verbally using Alexa. That's probably one of the more most common function of a smart range. There are some smart ranges that have cameras and that will allow you to see inside, like Mike mentioned with some of his countertop ranges. And that way, if you were upstairs and you want to see, does it look like your casserole is done, you can actually look into the oven and see what it looks like. Another function that some of these ranges have is if they have an induction cooktop, similar to what Mike was talking about with the induction burners, the induction cooktop can also work with these apps where you have step-by-step cooking instructions, and the app actually will control the temperature of the induction cooktop as you are following the steps to make the recipe. And if it tells you to saute and then to simmer, it will lower the temperature of the burner automatically when you get to that step in the recipe. Another function that some of them have is that you can scan barcodes on like frozen pizzas or pre-prepared foods that you buy at the grocery store, and the oven will automatically preheat to the correct temperature based upon what it is that you are cooking based off of the barcode, and it will set the timer and give you the cooking instructions. So that might be useful if you have, middle school kids, but it's sort of a technology that is something you can do, but is it worth it? I certainly wouldn't buy my range off of whether or not it will scan to cook that feature. One range that I have pictured here is GE, and it uses its own app, which is the Smart HQ app, to control the oven remotely with the timers. It is one of the ranges that has the induction cooktop providing the step-by-step cooking instructions, and it does have an in-oven live streaming camera. It's a solid oven. It has, probably the most smart features of any of the other ranges on the market. Are these worth it? Again, it's similar to the refrigerator. I think I would choose the range based on how you want to use it, and then decide if it's worth it to you to add on some of the extra smart features. I personally think having a camera in the oven, it would be useful. Then you wouldn't have to open it up and you could be in another room and check on the progress of your cooking. But I'm not sure that I would buy a stove just for that. The final appliance that I want to talk about are dishwashers. And this is, in my opinion, dishwasher is a category where I'm not really sure. Yes, the technology is there to allow you to check on the status of your dishwasher, I'm not sure it's really worth it. So the smart technology in dishwashers basically will allow you to turn it on or turn it off and check on the status of the cycles. There are a few manufacturers that will allow you to download new dishwashing programs as they come out. But other than that, it's really just to check on where you are on your washing cycle. And there are multiple manufacturers that offer this. The dishwasher I have here is the GE. It also connects with the Smart HQ app, similar to the Range. In fact, if you go with all GE appliances, then you can have them all right there on the same app and control them, you know, using the same app and not having to kind of futz around with different apps or connections. Fewer manufacturers offer smart dishwashers, and that may be just because of its limited functionality. But they are out there, and if you find a dishwasher you like and you think it would be useful to be able to control it remotely, then you may want to consider adding that functionality. And that's all that we have. Are there any questions, or does anybody have any comments that they'd like to make?
Well, I'd like to add that in this space, the more things that you kind of open up to the internet, the more of a security risk it is potentially. So not that someone is going to maliciously make coffee in your absence, but if they are somehow able to hack into the network through your coffee maker, they might be able to do some remote damage. So it's something to consider. Certainly.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure having you, and I hope that you were able to get something useful out of our program.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.